guys. How you doing?
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Excellent. How are you doing? Hoping you're doing well.
Oh, yes, I am. Thank you very much. So, first off, let me just tell you guys, I love the movie. I'm a big fan, so congratulations on the success you're having with it.
Thank you very much, man. That's awesome. By the way, this is Derek for voice recognition.
Okay, great. All right, excellent. Let's start at the beginning. Judging from the footage at the beginning of the film with you guys from being teenagers on, you've obviously known each other in real life for a long time as well. So how did you guys become friends, and how did you start making movies together, and how did you go from those kind of homemade films to doing Afflicted?
Sure. So Derek and I, we met each other in grade 8 English class, and so we were friends at the age of 13. And then when we were 16, we saw the movie Desperado by Robert Rodriguez, which basically we thought was the pinnacle of cinematic achievement and was definitely something that we needed to do for the rest of our lives, was trying to make a movie like that. Right. So we got our parents' handy cams and basically started making these little Desperado homage action movies with our friends, and continued to do that through university. We were both taking, Derek was in Asian studies, I was in history, and this was what we were doing for fun on the weekends, but getting more and more serious about it. And then by the time we graduated, we thought, hey, what if we actually tried to give this an actual go and become filmmakers? And so that was in about 2000, and 10 years and 4 short films later is when we started working on Afflicted. That short film that you see at the beginning, like the clips in the beginning of the movie, is like literally me trying to be a Mexican-Chinese hitman. Yeah.
Well, I think you pulled it off fairly well. So, and to be fair, Desperado is still a great movie.
I think it's gotten worse since then. Yeah, it's completely believable.
Yeah, totally. But you have great taste. Desperado is one of my favorites, so it's a good place to start from. Most movies in the found footage genre these days pretty much suck, if I can say so. And your guys' movie does not suck, most assuredly. So what made you choose to shoot in this style, and how did you keep it from sucking, basically?
That's two really big questions. I think the first one is, we didn't actually choose to, we're not actually huge found footage guys to begin with. Like, we didn't grow up making found footage, like short films and stuff like that. The reason why we were attracted to found footage was, and vampires in and of itself wasn't something that Clif and I were super excited about. It was literally, the whole project came about because of the juxtaposition of the two. We wanted to tell something as over the top and stylized and pretty and oversaturated as vampires that are actually kind of like cool right now, and make it uncool again, make it scary, make it awful. And the best way for us to make it feel real was to use a style of filmmaking that we thought like plays on that very trope, plays on that very idea. So the juxtaposing of the super unreal vampires with the hyper realism of found footage was what made this project made sense to us, and all of a sudden we got super excited about the idea.
Very cool. So what was the process of filming like then? How much did you guys have scripted ahead of time? Did you improvise? What was it like? Because you guys obviously wrote it, you starred in it, you directed it, yet you wore a lot of hats.
So we wrote a full script ahead of time where, line by line we had everything plotted out. But then on the day, we would allow for, if we wanted to, we were not precious about words at all. And particularly when we were dealing with Zach and Ado, who were a couple friends of ours who had very limited acting experience. For them, it was basically about, okay, guys, this is what's going to happen in the scene, and just let them loose, let them do whatever they wanted. And, but, stuff like Audrey's speech at the end and a lot of our stuff, that was scripted.
And how do you guys split duties on set as co-directors and co-writers? Is it how collaborative is it, and how do you guys sort of decide who determines what?
A lot of screaming and fists. Honestly, it's like if you look at the way the film is shot, it's usually only one of us on camera at a time, which means the other guy is directing those scenes. Right. The only time that it gets really, really complicated, obviously, is when we're both in the shot, which luckily only happens a handful of times. But that process is a lot of trial and error. It's like, do the scene, don't think about it as directors, just really try to be the actors in the scene, stop everything, review the footage, try to be as objective as possible, and then move on. Because if we start trying to wear multiple hats as actors, we will fuck it up. Screw it up, sorry.
That's okay.
So we have to just like compartmentalize our brains, do one thing, stop and review. It does slow us down, but it's the only way it's going to work.
Right. Now, speaking of which, one of the things I find interesting is, found footage movies and horror movies are both can be cesspools of bad acting. This movie is both of those genres, yet I thought your guys' performances were really good. And, from what I can tell, you don't come from long, storied acting backgrounds. So, where does that come from? How did you guys manage to, do this all so convincingly?
He said we were good because we were tired. Yeah, well, you're in the solid middle of the people who've assessed our acting. There are plenty of people who weren't quite so impressed. I think, first of all, Derek was the lead actor in all of our short films. So dating back from when we were in high school, but also including all our quote-unquote real short films we did afterwards, he was always the lead actor. So we wrote the movie knowing that Derek was going to star in it. It wasn't till after we came up with the concept that it was going to be found footage vampires, and then we wanted to create the sense of reality that we decided, okay, Derek, you're going to play yourself, and I'll play myself. Because you need a friend, and let's base the entire thing around our relationship and our, actual families and our real lives. And I think, at least for me, like I knew Derek in all of our short films, he's always going through these incredibly harrowing, emotional, intense experiences. So I know he could pull that off, and he was going to be able to do that heavy lifting. The wild card was me because I hadn't acted, and since I was 18 and playing the antagonist of the Mexican gangster. So the good news was I was playing myself, and we were grounded in our own lives. So I could basically, that's what I had to channel and use. And I had Derek there coaching me through it, and we were also in a very it was a very intimate environment on set because it was basically just the two of us, and then sometimes only another additional 5 or 7 crew members. So it was definitely it was a very safe place to be able to explore as an actor playing yourself as well, and just kind of find those raw moments.
Sure. And then, on set, you guys are basically first-time feature film directors. Obviously, you have a lot of experience, with short films, but then you come into this film, and there's a pretty good amount of special effects in the movie that I think looked very convincing. So, how did you work with that as newer directors, and how did you kind of achieve what you did with what I presume was a lower budget?
Yeah, we had a really tiny budget to begin with. The huge advantage we got at the beginning was company called Image Engine who did District 9.
Mm-hmm.
They actually came on board really, really early as executive producers and offered us a grand total of 6 VFX shots.
Wow.
They said if we could limit our VFX to 6 shots, that they would do it for us in between cycles and they wouldn't charge us an arm and leg for it. So we're like, sweet. So Clif and I constructed the whole movie around doing almost everything practically except for 6 money shots that we knew we could get. But even having said that, though, it goes back to your point, which is like we don't have a huge VFX background, and it was nerve-wracking for us. If we knew we got it in camera because we did practical, it felt really good to us. When we shot stuff in Italy that was like me punching air, and then we had to put in the boulder afterwards, that's incredibly nerve-wracking for a couple of young directors like us, because we are in a found footage movie. If it doesn't look 100% real, it kills the illusion. So it was a huge gamble, but luckily Image Engine, Encore, and Leviathan were amazing, and the 3 companies together did amazing work for us, and we think it looks fantastic.
Absolutely. I was really impressed with it. And also what I was impressed with was the sound design in the film, especially, Derek, as you're transforming. I mean, the just really creepy what you guys did with the sound. How involved were you guys in setting that? Was that something you had a hand in, or did they just bring it to you and say, hey, this sounds cool?
I think we were annoyingly involved. I think we knew from the very beginning that because it was going to be a found footage movie, that we weren't going to be able to lean on things like super stylized sound design and music. That all of that, like to create the atmosphere and the tone and everything, was going to have to basically be through winds and room tones and all those other kinds of things. And then we also knew that we did have a limited ability to show only a certain number of visual effects. But to tell the rest of the supernatural story, that was going to be through the creation of this creature through the sound. So we got to cheat a lot with sound, too. I mean, if you think about found footage, you're limited to a really tiny frame of whatever the camera's showing you. It's not like traditional film where you sort of step back and you get these wide shots and you're establishing these masters where you get to see the context of it all. Because we're limited to such a small frame, what you hear actually sells way more of the wild chaos of what's going on in the movie than what you see. Like, you don't need to see all the explosions and the gunfire and the vampire and all that stuff to like fill in all the gaps yourself. You get to imagine Derek being this like bloodthirsty, ravenous creature, and you never actually really look at him. And so we thought that was an incredibly fun way to cheat our way around not having a huge budget.
Right. You guys won a bunch of awards at Fantastic Fest: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay. Obviously, people are reacting positively to this film. So, what's the kind of, now that it's all done being filmed and it's out there, what's the reaction been like, and what's the experience been like for you guys?
It's been incredible, actually. Like, generally speaking, the thing that we're find most gratifying about the reaction about the film so far is like, it's not a perfect film. We're not worried about, you know, the 10 out of 10s or even the 3 out of 10s of people that hate it. But the people that do like the film, they like the movie for the reasons why we wanted to make the movie. And that sounds funny, but it's like, we wanted to tell a movie about what happens when vampires are scary again. We wanted to tell what happens if it happened to you and I, and it felt like this romantic travel movie turned into like this crazy psycho adventure. And the people that like the movie have literally, without prompting from us, sort of complimented us on those ideas, and that feels super awesome. Like, it's just so good to hear that from people.
All right, so taking vampirism out of the picture, who wins in a fight, Derek or Cliff?
Oh, Derek would win. wait, without vampires?
Yeah, without vampires.
Okay, maybe. But in the movie, at the end of the movie, with Cliff turning into the thing at the end, I think Cliff wins.
Speaking of the end, the post-credit sequence, I loved that because I wasn't sure where you were going with it at first. Until that last shot, obviously. What was that planned, or was that an afterthought?
That was something that was one of the very. In fact, that was the very last thing that got added to the movie. For a long time, the movie actually ended with Cliff's death scene placed out of order at the end of the movie. Basically, Derek saying, "Mom and Dad, I can't come home, and here's why." And once, for many reasons, we had to put that back into the movie where it ended up chronologically. And we had always been very resistant to the idea of Cliff coming back at the end of the movie because we thought the whole point of it is that there are consequences of the fact that Derek doesn't acknowledge that he's a vampire. And if he doesn't sort of adjust his behavior, people around him who we care about are going to get hurt. And if Cliff comes back, then it takes away those consequences. Oh, well, he didn't really die. They're Batman and Robin. They can be best friends forever. It wasn't until we sort of came up with the idea of, okay, Cliff is going to come back, but it's going to be a fate worse than death. Derek has turned him into this, you know, horrible, bloodthirsty monster. That's when we're like, okay, that's cool. We stick that at the end of the movie. People will enjoy it, and ultimately, you know, the crowd. People told us, they're like, look, if Cliff comes back at the end of the movie, everyone's going to love it, and we stuck it in, and yes, they were right.
I liked it. I guess people know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we like the scene now, too, as well. It's one of those moments where you have to admit that you're wrong. Like,
right.
As directors and writers, we thought we were right, but when everybody and their dog, like people we agree with, people we respect, people we don't respect, like random people on the internet are like, you know, Cliff should come back. We're like, and then we put it in and it tests better and people like cheer at the end. We're like, oh, fuck, all right. You're right.
Well, I liked it because I was surprised by it. Like, I just thought he was dead at that point, and you know that was the end of it. It worked to fit in the film, and you know, and then at the very end, there's like, oh, that was neat. So so it worked on multiple levels. I thought.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, it's a buddy film, and we killed one of the buddies just before the third act. So
right.
I think that's why people wanted it so badly. It's like the whole movie is about this relationship between these two guys, and you kill one of them, and the other guy's going on this crazy quest to find redemption for that. There's this sort of this gaping hole that appears in people's psychology and their hearts when they're watching the movie, like, oh, but Cliff, and then we give it to them at the end. So
right.
I think that's why it works.
So what are you guys going to be working on next? I assume you'll be working together, or maybe not, but what do you guys have planned? Anything?
Well, we are in fact working on a screenplay right now, which is basically it's like an action movie that takes place in a horror movie universe.
Cool.
We've got another screenplay for an dark international action thriller that we've been working on for a while as well. And we're actually very excited to be working on a conventional stylized film where we can use music and sound design and beautiful cinematography to tell our story and sort of really expand the visual palette of what you can expect from Clif Prowse and Derek Lee. So, you know, when you see, wow, they did Afflicted and then they did this other movie, holy cow, I can't believe the same two guys did that. We're very excited about that.
Good. Well, I'm excited too. Like I said, I really enjoyed the film, so it was very exciting to talk to you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing bigger and better things from you. So
awesome. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Guys, the interviews, right? When you're famous, when you're big time.
Well, let's get big time first, and we'll remind us of this question, and we'll talk again. That's awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
You too. Bye.